Good evening. The Dolores County Broadcasting Network presents the DCTV 4-H Evening News Program for Monday, February 13th, 2012, with news anchors Arian and Salem, meteorologist Andrew, camera people Myra, video engineer and producer Russell, sound engineer Edward, teleprompter Edward, prompter Mary Ann, sound engineer, let me repeat that, Dan. And this is news director Dan. And now the news.
TV 4-H Evening News and Weather Report, starring our famous Dove Creek students. We would like you to know that you can now buy a sponsorship for DCTV that will help keep our kids show on the air. To buy one of these sponsorships, just call 970-677-4119. Thank you. This is Arian reporting for DCTV. The following story is from the Dove Creek Press. 2012 League Wrestling Champions. Dove Creek was proclaimed league champion at the league tournament last Friday in Norwood. Coach Shane Boffman said that officials used an entirely different method of awarding points, giving 4 for a first-place finish, 3 for a second, and down to 1 for fourth. Dove Creek had 36 points and Norwood 25. Dolores was on their heels with 23 points. Ignacio had 21 and Nucla had 17. Wrestlers who finished first were proclaimed first team all-conference, and second placers were named to the second team. Congrats, Bulldogs. Great work. And now I'll be giving you a story from the Cortez Journal. From footprints to fingerprints. Early Monday morning, a fresh blanket of snow covered the town of Dolores when an alarm was triggered at the traditional Charm Antique Mall at 315 Central Avenue. Deputies arrived on the scene to find that someone had made a forced entry into the antique mall. Upon closer inspection, fresh footprints in the snow leading away from the scene of the crime were discovered. As deputies followed the fresh prints in the snow, they soon found another clue: jewelry. Deputies simply followed the fresh tracks and jewelry to the front door of an apartment complex. Once outside the door, Meteor said the deputies could not get anyone to open the door. Deputies remained on scene until a search warrant was obtained and an arrest could be made. Inside, deputies recovered most of the stolen goods. Reports also indicated the suspect stopped in front of a security camera near the Hollywood bar, and he was caught on tape. Just another dumb criminal. And now I'll be giving you Salem.
Dumb city laws in Louisiana. It is illegal to practice voodoo in the city limits. Snakes are not allowed within 200 yards of the Mardi Gras parade route. No smoking. Signs shall be placed on all floats used during a parade. No one may throw a bottle of Coke at a parade float. Television reporters may not throw candy to the crowd during a parade. You may not tie an alligator to a fire hydrant. It is illegal for a woman to drive a car unless her husband is waving a flag in front of it. Now I will be giving you the current weather. The current temperature is 40 degrees. The high for today was 42 degrees. The low was 25 degrees. The wind has been between 1 and 8 miles per hour from the north. The barometer is at 29.98 inches and steady. The humidity is at 88%. There has been 14 hundredths of an inch measured by the DCTV weather station. Moisture for the month is 72 hundredths of an inch. And I will be giving you big map.
Hello, my name is Andrew. I will be giving you the big map now. Pacific Northwest and the West. has something going on. 2 low-pressure systems are keeping a small area of the central part of the nation clear. More snow and rain is falling from Minnesota across into Pennsylvania and south into east Texas, which should be like right over here. East Texas and back into East Georgia. That's a big one. And up through the western Carolinas into Pennsylvania again. It should be Montana, but it says Pennsylvania, which is like over here somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, most of the east coast is clear, right over here. Now I'll be giving you the 5-day forecast. Tuesday, snow likely, high 48, or 40, changed, low 21. Wednesday, snow showers, high 38, low 19. Thursday, mostly sunny, high 41, low 19. Friday, mostly sunny, high 42, low 19. Saturday, mostly cloudy, high 42, and low 20. And now I'll be giving you this week's CO2 numbers. The CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is one of the principal indicators of climate change. The higher the number, the warmer our climate will become. We want to thank Dr. Peter Tans of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration and Michael McGee of the CO2 Now website for this information. The week of February 5th, 2012, 392 parts per million. CO2 last year, 391 parts per million. CO2 10 years ago, 372 parts per million. CO2 50 years ago, 318 parts per million. In the last 50 years, the CO2 has risen 71.7 parts per million. Up until the last 150 years, CO2 climbed at a rate of only 2 parts per million per 100 years. If everyone can keep their auto use down and lower their use of fossil fuels as much as possible, it will all help. There are 311 million people in the U.S. according to the last census, so if everyone drove just 1 mile less or a week and lowered that thermostat just 1 degree, it would really add up. Remember, you can buy a sponsorship in what? And that will be giving you Salem again. That's not Salem. Bye. Or Smokey the Bear, maybe. Hi, Smokey. How's it going? Fist bump.
Now I give you Salem with our special guest interview. Today we welcome Rebecca Samolsky from Firewise, Southern Colorado.
What is going on?
Hi, Salem.
Miss Samolsky is a Montezuma country native and a graduate of Cortez High School. She has a bachelor's degree in anthropology from Fort Lewis College. She is married and has 2 small sons. Welcome to DCTV, Miss Samolsky.
Thanks again, Salem, for having me here.
When did you start with Firewise of Colorado?
That was about a year ago, last February.
What is Firewise or Colorado?
Firewise of Southwest Colorado is a nonprofit organization, and we work with homeowners in the private areas of the county to try and help them protect their lives and their homes and their property from the dangers of wildfire. And we do that by giving them educational information. We outreach, help them with planning for their neighborhoods, and help them to actually complete mitigation work on their project to reduce the fuels around their homes so they won't be at such a high risk from wildfire, because most of the homes in Southwest Colorado are either at moderate or high risk from wildfire. So it really is a problem here.
Is wildfire really a problem here?
Yes, it is. In Dolores County, I think there's a lot of different kinds of land use that take place. We have forest, and we have a lot of fields and agricultural lands, a little bit of more deserty sage country out on the on the west side of the county, and all of those fuel types can and do burn. Some of you know that maybe from burning agricultural fields. It's something that we do, and it's a healthy thing, a good practice to do. And some forest fires, are naturally occurring things also. So they do happen here, but the fire behavior has changed a lot. We can talk about some reasons a little bit later on, but fire is different. The other things that's different is now we've built a lot of our homes into these communities where wildfire is supposed to be. So our homes are somewhere where fire naturally occurs. Here in southwestern part of the United States, a whole lot of rain, right? So if you don't have a whole lot of rain to break down things on the ground, then what is it that does that decomposition? What it is in southwest Colorado is wildfires. So we need to have wildfires to have a healthy natural environment here. But we also need to protect our homes from those wildfires. So that's why I work for Firewise of Southwest Colorado.
Won't the firefighters come if there is a fire?
Yes, the firefighters will come if there is a fire, but it's every homeowner's responsibility to help make their house prepared for a wildfire before a fire gets there. Like I said, fires are something that will happen. I'm sure that you've all seen the smoke, and you've all been around forest fires and seen fields burn very quickly. Every year, even here in Dolores County, I don't have the exact numbers, but there are parts of fields that burn that you don't want to burn, and that's a loss of somebody's crop and money that they would have. But Dolores County is a very, very big county, and so it can take a long time for the firefighters to get there. The other problem is if you have a big wildfire that's coming and you have a couple of firefighters, or the fire gets big enough that they call in the people from the federal, the Forest Service or the BLM to come out with their fire crews, that it's going to take them a long time to get here, and there's not going to be a lot of resources at first. So if you have a lot of homes that are threatened from wildfire, they're going to choose the homes to protect that are the easiest to protect. So that's why it's important to have defensible space and think about what's going to happen if there's a wildfire before it's knocking at your door.
Are all wildfires bad?
No, like I was kind of saying, some of them, we need those wildfires to help keep our forests healthy. Most of the wildfires, 9 out of every 10 wildfires, are human caused, a human ignition. So, all those wildfires are wildfires that wouldn't necessarily happen when you get a wildfire that starts on a dry, hot day in May or the early June before any monsoons start. That start wouldn't have happened if there weren't people there to start it. Usually, the natural fire cycle is fire starting from lightning, and that doesn't come till later in the season. Usually lightning comes with rain, right? Hopefully, not always around here, but you hope that you get some rain with it. When you get other kinds of human-caused fires happening earlier before we have much monsoonal moisture here, there's a lot more potential for a wildfire that can just take off and kind of have an almost unnatural wildfire behavior. And the other thing about wildfires that's different today than it was 100 years ago in southwest Colorado is that we've been putting out fires for a long time because we recognize that they're burning down trees that we could use to make something else with, or they're burning down fields or houses and causing damage as we see it. But what's happened because of that is the forest floor has a lot of undergrowth has been able to grow back under there that fires would have used to have kind of helped clean out. And so now that those fires aren't helping to clean it out, we have what we call a loaded forest. You have a lot of fuels, heavy fuels in the forest. So when you do get a wildfire, it can burn a lot more intensely and be a lot harder for firefighters to put out when it's threatening homes.
Wildfire is such a big threat. Will anything that my family does really make a difference?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do as a family, as a homeowner or renter, to help protect your home from fire. And they're not all expensive, and they don't all take a lot of time. And one of the very first things is that you need to have an evacuation plan and be ready to evacuate, before fire season starts. And this is a good time of year to start thinking about what is it that you're going to take out of your house if you need to leave because there's a wildfire. Another thing that you can do is just find out what your level of risk is. Come down here to the courthouse and ask to see a map and find out if you're in a high-risk area or what kinds of threats there are to your home. If somebody contacts me at Firewise, I can get somebody to come out here and actually look at your property and find out what the specific issues are with your house and with your property that are going to cause you the biggest risk for wildfire. And then you have a map to go from in order to know what you can start working around your house. Instead of if you have 80 acres or 160 acres or even 5 acres, that can be a tremendous amount of work, especially if it's forested, to do the fire mitigation on. So it's nice to have a place to know where to start. And then, do you know how to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's how you should also look at treating your own home and the own forest around your home for wildfires. So take it one step at a time.
Isn't it bad for the forest to cut down trees?
No, because it's not always a bad thing to cut down trees in the forest. It depends on what kind of the forest it is. But you can actually create a healthier forest by thinning out some of the trees. Because as I said, the fire hasn't been thinning it out like it naturally would have, particularly in the ponderosa pine forest that's adapted to forest fires. The fires come through and they knock out the low trees and you have a big, well-spaced forest, and we don't have that anymore in our ponderosa pine forests around here. So by taking those out and creating that spacing yourself, you're helping the health of the forest and get it restored to more like how it naturally would be. But also in the pinyon juniper forests, we have a lot of mistletoe that affects our trees. We have a lot of forests that don't have a lot of stand diversity in them. We've lost a lot of pinyon pine trees, and there isn't a lot of space in the pinyon pine trees in those forests for new growth to take place unless we clear that out and start doing some of the work that a forest fire would do otherwise. So it can make your forest healthier.
What if we rent the house that we live in?
If you rent the house and you don't know if you're allowed to do fire mitigation on it, the first thing that I would do is tell your landowner or homeowner of that property that you think that there might be a problem and talk to them about it. That's the number one, the first most important thing we could do is start talking about wildfire, because it is a risk here, and it's an easy thing to just get complacent and not concern yourselves too much with wildfire, because we haven't had a whole lot of homes burned down in Dolores County from wildfire in a while. Probably people who've been around here for a while remember the Missionary Ridge fire in 2002 and the big fire on Mesa Verde National Park in 2002 that did threaten structures and take a lot of homes. And it's the 10-year anniversary this year, in 2012 now. So just as a little reminder, fires do happen and they will happen, and so we need to be talking about them. And so after you talk with your landlord about it, maybe they'll let you do the work, maybe they'll come in and do the work. And there's other things they can know. The state of Colorado has a tax deduction you can take for any money that you put into doing wildfire mitigation on your property. So a little incentive for your landlord. It's just a little thing, but it's something's better than nothing. And you can also connect them with Firewise of Southwest Colorado, and there's a lot of tools that we have to help you figure out what the problems are on your property and how that you could best mitigate your risks of wildfire.
Do you have Smokey with you?
Yes, I did. I brought Smokey Bear with me today. Even though he kind of works on public lands and I tend to help homeowners on their private lands, I thought that it would be fun to have Smokey Bear come meet you. Come over here, Smokey. Come sit down in this chair. Salem, this is Smokey.
Hello. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, do you have any other questions for me before we start talking about Smokey?
No.
No? You know everything you need to know about wildfire now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Smokey Bear is somebody who comes and he helps. Do you know the story of Smokey?
Mm-hmm.
I think I had Arian saying she knew something about it. Arian, you want to tell us what you know about it?
What I know about Smokey is that he was a cub who was caught in a tree in a forest fire in New Mexico. And the firefighters saved him, and he survived, so he was called Smokey. And they used him as a fire safety symbol.
That's exactly right, Arian. That was in the early 50s in the early 50s in the Lincoln National Forest that Smokey Bear was found by some firefighters that were actually almost trapped and consumed by the fire themselves. But after they got out of there safely, they found a little Smokey Bear cub there. Yeah, as you know, Smokey's here to tell us all to be careful with matches in the forest because he lost all his family and all his friends in the fire. But Smokey Bear represents a lot of what fire management is about on the public lands, and that we have to be really careful and make sure that we put our fires all the way out, and that we're always conscious of what the weather's like when we're out there playing on the public lands. But Firewise is here to kind of do that, to let you know what you need to do on your private property as homeowners, and the things that you can do. Managing fire on private land's really different than managing it on the public lands, where we can just let a fire go and have some of its natural effects on the forest that we want it to have, which I know Smokey doesn't really like the idea of that, but we're getting away from it a little bit. He used to be kind of really, no, fires are bad, and now he's starting to understand that fires are really important. We just have to be more careful with them and more careful about how we manage our forests. So I wanted to bring Smokey here to meet with you guys today. Is there anything that you want me to try and find out from Smokey? Do you guys have any questions? No, you just want a high five. Thanks. How old is Smokey? When was he a cub? It was the early, well, okay. This is a descendant representative for Smokey. So I got to get that out of the way first. Bears do not live for 65 years or so, which is about how old he would be. So he's buried back on the Lincoln National Forest or near there in New Mexico, and there's a whole statue and thing to him there now. But now he still gets to come around and enjoy meeting with folks and helping them to understand how important wildfire is in southwest Colorado and all over.
Thank you, Mrs. Smolsky, for coming and sharing this information with us.
Thanks, Salem.
Now back to our news director.
Everybody getting the shot with Smokey.
Yeah, good show, Smokey.
end.
Thanks for coming with me.
Of today's DCTV 4-H evening.
Do you do knuckles now
program.
these days, Smokey?
I would especially like to thank
Do you want to give him
the
knucks?
U.S. Forest Service and Firewise for this program, and especially Smokey the Bear. So thank you all, and good night.